Hey there. So we're talking about Saturn Returns today. Woohoo! I know a lot of you are going through them or have questions about them. And so today is all about Saturn Returns, because why not? There's a lot of fear surrounding Saturn Returns. And there isn't really a reason to be afraid of the Saturn return. Often, people know enough about astrology to be dangerous, and they'll attribute things to Mercury retrograde or a Saturn return when, to be honest, there's a lot more going on in the sky and a lot more to astrology than what you hear about online. Most of the time, people are oversimplifying it or trying to drum up some street cred, making people afraid. So we're going to talk about the reality of a Saturn return, because Saturn's about reality. Hey, how are you? Yeah, Malcolm's with us today. Malcolm is he's hanging out with me on the chair, because he actually sleeps on the chair when I'm not using it for live streams. I do my work on the satin couch, because I have a cool red satin couch too. So as soon as I move into my new space, you will be able to see all of my funky doodle furniture, because I will set it up and stage it for that. But yeah, so we're talking about Saturn returns. We're talking about Saturn returns today. And I've got a workshop set up for Halloween, thanks to popular demand. All of you guys asked me about it the other night. And so I was like, yeah, let's do a class on Saturn itself and Saturn returns. So there's two workshops. One is Saturn through the houses, to get a really good understanding of Saturn itself, because obviously if we're talking about the houses, we'll also talk about the Saturn through the signs. And then we're going to do just a dedicated 90-minute workshop on Saturn returns itself, so that you get a really good understanding of what Saturn returns are. But just to give you the basic information right here, right now, Saturn returns are when Saturn returns to the place it started in your natal chart. So it's the placement itself returning, okay? And it really makes another whole chart. It's a predictive chart as much as a process. There's a lot of misinformation about Saturn returns or astrology in general. So some people will say your Saturn return begins when Saturn enters the sign and that your Saturn is in. So if you have Saturn in Aquarius at 28 degrees, there's some misinformation out there. You're not in your Saturn return yet. You're in your Saturn return when Saturn returns to exactly the spot it was in the natal chart. Now, there's a process that happens as it comes into orb, and that's something we're going to go through in the class. But the return itself is a chart. Just like a solar return or a lunar return is a chart, and it's a predictive chart. So there is that. Hey, yes, it's the 1-year anniversary of the day I was super bored, checked out TikTok because someone wanted it banned. We won't mention the name. And I thought, screw that, I'm downloading it, and came on and saw such a creative space and decided to make astrology videos. And I would just wanted 1,000 people so I could live stream. So whoops, that kind of blew up. That was kind of fun. So yeah. Oh, awesome. You're reconnected. Pluto station direct today. Your mom, oh, there we go. Your mom and you have got closer during your Saturn return. Oh, right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I am good. Just reading through the comments here. I am good. It's good to see you all. Yeah. Whoops. I'm messing with filters. Right? Is it common for Saturn to wait to go conjunct multiple times? Absolutely. Yeah. Saturn often retrogrades. And so like during my Saturn return, it went forward, it went back, it went forward again. And it's the last conjunction that is the return. It is not a return until that process is finished. It's a very thorough learning process. So if we look at the process of the return, and then the Saturn return itself is that final contact when it's exact conjunct. And that makes the chart. That sets the Saturn return chart, which is a predictive chart. So you are able to see a theme for the next 28 and a half years. And then you get another Saturn return 28 and a half years after the first one. And if you live long enough, you get a third. And so Traditional astrology, more Hellenistic astrology, doesn't cover that very well because people didn't, in general, live as long. Okay, so you were pretty lucky if you made it to 30 years old. And at that point, you were considered pretty wise. It was when you were set as one of the elders in your community. Today, it's becoming a full-grown adult. Okay. In some cultures, still more traditional cultures, you don't really become an adult until when your dominant parent passes. Okay, transitions, dies. That's what makes you an adult in some cultures today. And so it's kind of that point where you step it up. You're in the next stage. You're no longer in the youth. You're now moving into full-grown adult with deciding powers and agency. The second Saturn return is where you become a wise one. Meaning you survived all the stupid shit that you did, and now you understand consequences far better. And you usually have some authority at that stage, much more authority than you did in the first pass. But we live in modern times, okay? So we live in modern times. So you're kind of a practice adult up until about 28, and then you've got stuff figured out more for yourself. You're unpacking things. What do you want to keep from society? What do you want to do on your own? That's more about that first Saturn return. In the second Saturn return, it's like, okay, what's next? You really see your mortality as you approach that second Saturn return. So what do you want to do with the rest of your life? We have more choices, especially in the West. We have more choices than we've ever had about how we want to live our lives. Even if this economy gets difficult, we still have more choices, partly due to technology. And so we start to look at, where am I going to put my agency? How am I going to own my own authority? Those are all themes of Saturn. Saturn isn't just, I love how people are like, it's the Lord of Karma. Karma's consequences. Okay? I met some consequences on Monday. I did. I wasn't looking at where I'm going. I was in my head. I had to go back to my car to get something. And I was up here, I was thinking, and on my blind side, now it was funny because looking straight ahead, the path was clear. Not paying attention, I missed on my blind side, because again, remember I'm blind in this side, I missed the lip of a curb and I went straight down. I have an owie on my elbow. See that? It's gross. It also hurts. But I broke nothing. So it's good. But the consequence of not paying attention was gravity. I wasn't being punished. It was the consequence of not paying attention. It might have felt like a punishment, but that's a really immature way of viewing it. The fact that it was in public was super fun. Luckily, no one other than the security cameras saw me, and I was able to wave and say hi. Because I have a Sagittarian Mars. I already know I need to pay attention, right? It's going to get me every time. But I wasn't being punished. It was just a consequence. No god or goddess was sticking their foot out going, gotcha! That's not how life works. We live in a modern era. We need to take a modern approach to our thinking, okay? So consequences happen. We have good consequences and we have consequences we don't like, all right? So if we're not paying attention to stuff, gravity happens. That's just a consequence, but we can have good consequences, all right? So if we are paying attention, we get to the car without bruising our elbow. We don't pay attention to those, right? How can you find through the charts that most people have divine purpose to serve humanity? Honestly, I don't think... you are divine in being a human being, okay? So I'm not merely an astrologer. I am a metaphysician, okay? I've studied the arcane, the mystical. If I lived in the Middle Ages, I'd be a mystic, okay? We serve humanity by being alive. Okay, by being in a physical form. We're not here to subjugate ourselves, to sacrifice ourselves, to overgive of ourselves. We are here to have a range of experiences, and it is through our range of experiences that we are of service. I think we need to really unpack the religious dogma many of us were raised with, where we were taught to overgive of ourselves, receive not enough, subjugate ourselves, and work in the lower ranges of Saturnian energy, which is to be subjugated and owned and restricted, versus owning our own agency, understanding our connection to the divine, and that our very existence is an expression of the divine. Just being you, without condition. Understanding both positive and negative experiences serve a purpose. That the people we think of as bad may be serving an equal divine purpose. If you can step back and go, I don't know what it is. I don't even have to like them, but they've got a purpose too. Because they might be the catalyst for growth and evolution for a large group of people. You never know. So I think we have to be really, really careful about that. I think we need to be very, very careful about looking virtuous. I think when we look at the death of the ego and being realistic, because we're talking Saturn here, right? I think we need to be careful about the only way to be spiritual is to have a certain aesthetic, use a certain tone of voice. I could easily speak quietly to you. I could easily use a soft tone of voice and pretend to be a paragon of virtue and bless you all the time and manipulate you like a lot of the people in the New Age movement have done, right? But that doesn't serve a purpose. Our very purpose of being in existence is the point. We are here to spiritualize matter, and that is just being in living bodies. It's a 1 in 400 trillion chance. I saw the breakdown on the numbers for that. A 1 in 400 trillion chance of being human. That itself makes you divine. Okay? So what I can see is what you chose as your purpose in this lifetime, what kind of things you want to learn. So absolutely, we can see everything in a chart. We can see the trauma, we can see the drama, we can see the love, we can see the creative spark, you can see your connection with the divine, you can see your struggles and your triumphs. We can see the range of possible outcomes. Why do I say possible? Because the future isn't set in stone. Every time you make a decision, you choose a path. And it zigs and it zags and doors open, doors close, windows open, windows close. The future isn't set in stone, but what we can see is trends and trajectories. But you can jump from one thing on the fan of possibilities to another. You can. I've done it. Where it looked like life was going that way, and in one moment made a decision that took me to this opposite side. You know, one way was death and one way was life. It was literally life and death decisions. And either one would have been okay, by the way. You know, there's no wrong way to do life. And as soon as you start to understand that, the more grace you give yourself and the more you can lighten up and enjoy this ride, right? Because we're so heavy about everything. And Saturn actually can be the structure you need to give you range of motion. It's your discipline, it's your drive, it's your ambition as much as it is restriction. Okay? We have a skeletal structure. It is ruled by Saturn. Okay? We have a skeletal structure. It is ruled by Saturn. Without the skeletal structure, we would be blobs of goo. We'd be just meat sacks that had no range of motion. It is our structure that gives us range of motion. Okay? Without the bones, we can't move. All right? And you need the muscles and you need the ligaments and the tendons, but without that physical skeletal structure, those ligaments and tendons would have nothing to hang on to. The muscles would have nothing to hang on to. So Saturn plays a very, very important role in the chart. I personally do not like the benefic and malefic interpretations. I think that's very medieval and very Hellenistic thinking. As an anthropologist, I can tell you our culture does not work that way. As long as we're living in duality, we rob ourselves of some of that range of motion and we lock up our joints. Literally. Lock ourselves up and lose range of motion instead of being able to come to a neutral space and say, well, I can learn something from this. I can reorganize myself. I can restructure myself. And that's what Saturn in Aquarius retrograde has given us the opportunity to do since May. That's why a lot of people have been tired. You've been recalibrating. You've been restructuring, reorganizing, because Saturn in Aquarius is what's giving us people power. That's why you're watching the labor movement gain strength. And then with this new moon in Libra, with Mars conjunct, just watch it. You're watching the strikes start. You're watching people unionize. That's taking off. This is going to be a long process. So that's from a more meta position. That's from the mundane. Inside of yourself is a different story. Okay? So hang on. Let me see. You're a Leo, and this new moon is giving you a weird feeling of great concern. Is it normal? It depends on the rest of your chart. It's really shouldn't be giving you any concern given the connection from Libra to Leo. However, you might be feeling Saturn getting ready to station direct, and that might be opposing your moon. So you only need to be concerned about the future here. You only need to be concerned about the future if you're really, really plugged into society. If you're a conformist, if you've been playing the game, it's going to hurt because everything is really going kablooey from here through December. The economy is going to go hog wild, all over the place. We're going to have logistics nightmares. This is on a meta level, a mundane level. But if you're a nonconformist, if you've struggled in life, if you've had to make do, you're golden. Okay, so all of us who march to our own percussion sections are going to do pretty well. If you know how to harness Saturn energy, you're going to do pretty well. Right now, I have Saturn square my Saturn. So I've had to restructure some of my habits. I tend to work really, really hard because Saturn is in my 6th house. I've got a lot of drive, I've got a lot of discipline, and I will work hours and hours and hours and hours without a break. Well, that's not very good for me. So this Saturn square is making me take a look at where I'm putting my effort and saying, hey, 1, bring in a team. 2, you don't have to do it all yourself. So bringing on teammates slowly, building community, having the community help drive what's happening. So it's not all right here. So that square is being very beneficial to restructuring and reorganizing things. So let me take a look. Eric Harris rising. You turned 29 a month ago, started your first small business. Look at you from a hobby, feeling that Saturn return. That is a great way to use that energy. One of my favorite things right now is reading for millennials, Gen Z. I had a Gen Alpha today. I had an early, she was a Gen Zer. Yeah, but late Gen Zer. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, I could just munch your faces. So much fun. Just expressing that energy at so much higher frequencies. Just, I love the perspective and the philosophical nature and just the way they're tuning into things is amazing. Obviously not everybody in a single generation, but the people coming to my way, I've been waiting for you for decades. If America loses internet for a week, there will be a mass freak out. If anywhere lost internet, at this point, we're all pretty plugged in. I mean, I don't know why you're worried about that. I don't see us losing internet for any length of time. Can you explain squares? I actually, in my astro guide on my website, I have all of that explained. I have all the basics of astrology explained, including the most common aspects. Aspects of the relationship that planets make to each other. So the first one is the conjunction, where they're right on top of one another. And then we have, then we would go to the sextile, which is a 60-degree angle, and that's a supportive aspect. The 90-degree angle is a square. The energy is going this way and it's going this way and it's blocked. It creates friction. Squares are about making decisions. It causes frustration. It's like the irritation that creates a pearl. In our society, we're so used to go, get it now, consumerist, that people look at these squares as such a bad thing. But it's really creative. Nothing is created without friction. A lot of times very creative people, artists, etc., will have a lot of squares in their chart. And the only way they can express themselves is through creativity. Then we have inconjuncts or quincunx, and that is a 150-degree angle, and that's planets that don't talk so well to each other. It's kind of, sort of, not quite energy, is like literally how it feels. Then you have the 120-degree angle. Oh, I should have done that first. 120-degree angle is the trine. That's unrestricted energy. It's like a fire hose of energy. It's unrestricted. And then the 180, which is the opposition, and that's where the two energies are on a polarity, is also very creative. A lot of it's not negative per se, but it's again more of a decision or a creating aspect. I don't like to look at things in terms of good or bad, negative or positive. They are what they are. What you do with that energy is another story. Some of the biggest natural disasters have happened during trine energy. Why? There's a ton of energy that is unrestricted. And yet a lot of astrologers would be like, oh, trines are always good. No, they're not. In fact, sometimes when I look at a natal chart that is full of trines, I know somebody went through a lot in their life, but they chose to their soul, knowing that there was potential for struggle in life or trauma, supported them with those trines. Okay, the trines show the support that help you get through the trauma. Squares are not the only indicator of traumatic events, not at all. So, and I teach that when I mentor professional students. Okay, so I will just go over things briefly, but I'm not going to give you everything I know here on a live stream because I want to get back to the Saturn return. Again, you can go to my website. I have a lot of resources on my website. I have Astro Guide Volume 1 is just from this year. In 2022, we'll start Astro Guide Volume 2. This year we have the ultimate cheat sheet. We have the Guide to Chiron, which is the wounded healer, although I'll do an entire workshop on it, I promise, because honestly, applying the Greek myth to a planet the Greeks never used is ridiculous, in my opinion. Okay, that was using confirmation bias to try to make something fit. And honestly, I just don't see that it works that way in 26 years of working with that planet. So my Guide to Chiron is up on the website. That's Astro Guide Volume 3, I believe. And then the Astro Guide Volume 1, Issue 2 is instinct versus intuition and understanding the difference. And I talk about the moon and Mercury in there. So, yeah. Right? How would one get a mentorship with me? Right now, the best way to go for mentors is with me to get mentorship is to join my Patreon at the Cosmic Surfers level. So Living by Luna is another one. So we talk about lunar transits in that level, which are extremely important. Everybody wants to look at the big things, and they don't look at the most essential things. And one of the reasons I'm exceptionally accurate is my attention to lunar transits. So, yeah. Oh, you love I'm so glad that you found the intuition guide helpful. That's awesome. Hey, you just listened to the podcast again. Oh, you're welcome. Providing safe spaces is part of my purpose in life. I have a Pisces North node in the 4th house. So creating safe havens for people is part of my purpose. So, yeah, I think I've missed some questions. Let me come back and see what I missed. So, do I have any in-depth classes through my Patreon? Oh, I do actually. If you go to the link in my bio, we're going to have a Saturn Workshop series on Halloween. I'm doing Saturn through the houses. I'm also doing Saturn Returns. Absolutely. And you can register for those now. So we do those on Halloween itself. They'll be recorded. They'll come with Astro Guides. I'll get the Astro Guides to Saturn and then Astro Guide to Saturn Return. Those will be ready. I've been meaning to do those anyway, so those will be all written up and ready for you. That'll be part of the class materials. The Saturn Through the Houses is a 1-hour class, and then the Saturn Returns is a 90-minute class. I couldn't think of a better thing to do on Halloween. Talk about Saturn. And then I have the How to Read Your Birth Chart class. It's recorded, but you get to meet with me every other week to ask questions. So, and there's a study group as well. So, yeah. Yeah, Spooky Saturn Seminar. Am I going to dress up, though? Oh, I don't know. I hadn't thought of that. I usually dress as a mom. Get that? See, I'm a Cancerian. I dress up as a mom. I might dress up. I don't know. I don't know what I'd be. So, we should all dress up? Okay. We'll all dress up for Halloween. Maybe I'll be Ida from Owl House. Yeah, maybe I should be Ida from Owl House, and I'll wear like hangers from my ears or something. Okay. Oh, yeah. Right? Right? That because of Molly, right? She's the one who brought it up. So yeah, you've been saving. Oh, I love it. Absolutely. Well, and because it's my year anniversary, I'm going to give you guys this code. You can use it on save 20%. You can use it on the workshop. You can use it on a reading. Save 20% saves you 20% on workshops and readings. So if you want to sign up for any of my courses, etc., just go ahead and use it. Won't work on the recorded course. Yeah. Awesome. I'm pretty booked out, and I'm not going to open up more time slots just yet. I'll think about it. But I was working so hard to get so many people ready for October, November, December that through the summer and, July, August, September, I was just like really tired. So now I'm going to not open up as many hours. So just giving myself, like this morning, I didn't read. I gave myself a chance to kind of collect my energy. I needed to do that. I have Saturn in the 6th house. So I have to really watch not overworking. Work is often my drug of choice. And that's going to be kind of the thing we talk about in the Saturn Through the Houses workshop. Again, you can find that through the link in my bio. So you're welcome. Bitteschön. Yeah. Does Saturn retrograde in the natal chart impact Saturn return? No, this is where people having terms but not understanding what they mean doesn't make any sense. Saturn retrograde can be a great thing in your natal chart, your natal placement. Okay, so if you have a natal Saturn retrograde, it does not change anything when Saturn stations direct. Or not Saturn stations direct, when Saturn is returned to your chart, to the position in your natal chart. So it's its chart in and of itself, okay? So a lot of people misunderstand what the Saturn return actually is. There is a time period and a process that is us owning our own agency and our own authority if we choose, or when we give it away to somebody else. We let somebody else be in charge of us, right? A lot of people, that's the time people do things that restrict them in some way. Sometimes they get married. Sometimes they have kids. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it changes the way you live your life. If you have a kid, even if you really wanted that kid, your life is restricted in certain ways because you're now putting your attention, time, and energy into another being. Likewise, if you get married, well, then there's another person to consider. You're not footloose and fancy free. In general. And then if you take social and cultural conditioning, you're probably looking at what is it to be a husband or a wife or a partner. And you might be considering these things. Maybe you got married young and you get to the Saturn return and you're like, wait a minute, maybe I don't believe that this is my role. My role needs to change. And you butt up against resistance for that. There's a lot of things that can happen during your first Saturn return because you're unpacking what part of my social cultural conditioning do I want to retain and what do I want to put to the side, especially now. Okay, we're in a much different position as a society and culture, and we're going through massive systemic change. So a lot of people, like if you just look at the gender role conversations, if we look at how people see how life is supposed to be lived, it's changing. Okay, we're in a time of massive systemic change. So a lot of the Saturn returns now are like, well, how do I empower myself? How do I have authority? It's very different than 60 years ago where you went, okay, well, mom and dad did this, so I'm going to do this. And it was much more conformist. So that's why, as a progressive evolutionary astrologer, I like to take things and move that narrative forward, make things more thinking versus reactive and just, robotic. So you're welcome. I'm glad to help. my patience is being tested with all the planets retrograde. Well, but that's what it was for. It was for rethinking everything. It was preparing us. Okay, it was the best time to get ready for the changes coming ahead. Because starting today with Pluto stationing direct, things start to move fast. The fact that Pluto stationed direct 2 hours after the new moon, man, that's a lot of energy. That's why I gave the astro alerts. Hi there. And so moving forward, tomorrow, Mercury is retrograde and it's square my Mercury. Hang on a second. Venus ingresses into Sagittarius. That's another big shift in the energy. We're going to be looking at global finance. There's the spin is so hard on what's happening in China's real estate right now. It's not even funny. Okay. They're like, oh, it's not going to be like Lehman. It's not going to be like Lehman. Oh yeah, it's going to be like Lehman. Okay. We're looking at a global financial crisis. It's not just the United States. It's global. Okay. And, so we've got that going on. We got that going for us. And then Saturn stations direct on the 8th in Aquarius. We will see more people power, the authority of the people globally. These are global events, not just the United States. We live in a freaking news bubble in this country. But we're going to see also a lot of authority figures kind of get what's coming to them. There's going to be some consequences. Mark Zuckerberg better look out. Not just him, other corporate leaders are going to be under scrutiny. And what it is what's funny is it's actually some of the other leadership throwing people under the bus to direct the public's attention over that way so they can continue doing their shady shit over here. So even with the Pandora Papers, unless the people get involved in the process, it's going to be a lot of theater. So you got to watch for that. Again, I did the seminar in September on how to prepare for the end of 2021. That's available as a recording up on my website. You can do it, stream it on demand on Vimeo. There's 2 options. You can have it forever, or you just watch it for 24 hours. So it fits into most budgets. Yeah, Twitch got hacked. But I think that happened I saw the announcement this morning and it was 22 hours ago was the announcement. So I think it was yesterday and they got hacked. Yeah. So you work in a car, you've been swamped. Oh yeah. I bought a new car on Monday 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And I got the last model of the car I wanted. And because the rest of them haven't come in yet because they're sitting on ships out in LA Harbor, and I wasn't going to wait until next year for a new car because I was without one. So yeah, fixing the same problem over and over. Oh no. Yeah, the French Catholic Church. Yep. Well, and you're just going to see more and more of that because we're watching the old power structures be eroded by that the whole activity of 2020 when we had Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter conjunct. That was basically a massive detonation at the power structures globally. So, they can just point fingers at the French Catholic Church, but I think you can see the Catholic Church worldwide has been responsible for some pretty heinous things. Because it's a political entity. The Vatican is a country. People forget about that. So we're going to be seeing those things happen. From an intellectual perspective, I find it all fascinating. So, again, I've been telling you guys to buy extra food. Well, you're now starting to see why. The prices are starting to raise. I looked at the store today. A brick of Tillamook cheese was just the little loaf was $12. Are you kidding me? I grew up with that cheese. It's not a specialist cheese. It's not a stinky French cheese. It's a Tillamook cheese from Oregon. $19.98, you could get that for $3.98 on sale. Just saying. And now sound like my great grandpa who's like, when I was a kid, you could buy bread for a nickel. But yeah. So again, it's time to bring your attention inside of yourself. Bring your attention inside. I'm not telling you to be selfish. I'm not telling you to not be empathetic or not care. But the more you spread your energy out in outrage, the less you're able to have agency. And that's one of the ways you get restricted by Saturn. People, authority figures controlling people emotionally. That's one of the ways you can be restricted. So owning your own, being disciplined and owning your own authority, bringing your attention inside so that you have more range of motion and you can take action. Because really, with Saturn in Aquarius right now, it's telling you, like, look for who is close to you. Look who you can count on. Who can you group together with? How can you build a network of people who support one another? Because the power is in the people. I don't think food prices don't tend to come down. You're writing your college essay right now, Spencer. Well, high five. You can do it. Yeah. What's a Saturn return? A Saturn return is where Saturn returns to the space it starts in your natal chart. So you look at your natal chart and you find Saturn, and it's a 28.5-year orbit, but it usually happens between 27 and 29. Saturn goes right back where it started in your natal chart by transit. And it's when it's there exactly on, if there's retrogrades involved, like if you get 3 passes, it's that final pass that makes the return. And that's where you're officially an adult, a real adult. You're not a practice adult. You're not figuring life out. You pretty much got it sorted. You don't know everything. You realize you don't need to know everything. And you're deciding what part of your societal and cultural programming you want to keep and what can go away. Where are you going to compromise, and how are you going to compromise to make your way through the world? And then you get a second one and possibly a third one, because this Saturn transits a full cycle in 28.5 years. Yeah. Yeah, release, look forward, absolutely. I don't really use perfections. It's a calculation. I see everything through transit. I don't use perfections. I think it's a cute tool, and I think it gives you a general idea. But honestly, I don't see that it's just not something I use. I'm not a Hellenistic astrologer. I was around when Project Hindsight first started. I've studied under some of the founders of Project Hindsight. I think it's historically very relevant. I think we get a lot of great information, but I think it's sold pretty hard and marketed pretty hard as something that it is not. It's how Hellenistic astrology is practiced today isn't necessarily how it was practiced in the Hellenistic era. And we live now. We don't live in ancient Greece. That culture actually died. It doesn't exist anymore. Greece itself exists and it has a culture, but it's not the same as ancient Greece. So as an anthropologist, I like to look at things progressively and move the narrative forward. I think there's a lot of predestination involved in Hellenistic astrology, and I don't operate that way. We have free will, we have agency, and if we learn how to work with our consciousness and express our consciousness in progressive ways, we have a lot more power. I think predetermined and predeterministic astrology is hobbles us. It confines us. It's very Saturnian in its nature versus Uranian. Okay, so Hellenistic astrology is more Saturnian. Progressive evolutionary astrology is more Uranian and liberation based. Yeah. Any tips for folks to prepare for their Saturn return? Hey. Well, I'm teaching workshops on that actually. So if you go to the link in my bio, you'll see on Halloween we're having the astrology workshops on Saturn through the houses, and then we're talking about Saturn returns. So you can read about that on my website if you go to the link in my bio. And because it's my 1-year anniversary on TikTok, which is so much fun, I joined because a certain someone wanted to ban the app, and I did it as a political protest. And then I saw what a creative space it was, and I decided to talk about astrology, and I thought, wow, if I ever get to 1,000 followers, I'll get to do live streams and talk about astrology, and hopefully people want to learn. And so, but yeah, so save 20% is the code. Save 20% is the code. How do you prepare for your Saturn return? Don't fear it. It's nothing to fear. A lot of what people blame for Saturn is actually other transits happening. Okay. It's not always just Saturn. Saturn returns can be very empowering and emboldening. Okay. My Saturn return was a difficult year. It's not like it's easy, but it was one of the most magical years of my life as well. I can guarantee it. It was a year I became a professional astrologer. I'd been a student up to that point. I had a lot of metaphysical experiences, like off the charts, crazy wild. I discovered many alternative healing methodologies at that time that helped me heal in my life, throughout my life. It's why I'm here. It's why I'm here. It was a fascinating year. Was it frustrating sometimes? Oh, hell yeah. I upended my whole life. Before the Saturn return. But if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't be alive. So I had to leave a situation in order to fully express myself. And it was scary and it was hard, but it was also very, very magical. Nothing is all good and nothing is all bad. We have to change how we think about things if we want to make nothing is all bad. We have to change how we think about things if we want to make it through the next 4 or 5 gnarly years. Okay. Nothing magically is getting easier from here on out, guys. We're looking at massive systemic change. And that means we have to approach life differently, because the old tried and true dominance and control ain't gonna fly for too much longer. Is it possible to go through what early? Your Saturn return? No. It happens between 27 and 29 years old. It happens between 27 and 29 years old. A lot of times what you're going through around 25 is your Chiron opposition. 25 is a pretty tough year. In fact, I'll argue 25 is harder. Like, the 25 is the Chiron opposition, and that is 10 times harder than the Saturn return. Usually you feel pretty old around 25. It can be a lot of suckage. It was for me. 25 sucked. That's when I found astrology, because I was like, holy heck. I was getting ready to turn 26, but oh man, that's why you could not pay me to go back to my 20s, not even for the body. Yeah, from power over to collaboration, absolutely. Yeah, you almost didn't survive 25. Yeah, 25 is hard. Yeah, 23, early 20s. Yeah. Oh, ouch. Wow. Yeah. 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 20s can be tough. 20s can be tough because you're learning about your role and you don't know how to assume your authority yet. That's why that Saturn return is so important, because you've lived through all the crap and now you know yourself a lot more. You don't know yourself all the way. You might think you do. We think a lot of things when we're younger, but you begin to know that you don't know. And that it's okay to not know, and it's okay to learn, and okay to grow. And then you spend your 30s like, am I doing this right? I've got this down. I'm learning. I'm working. And you shed more and more of what has been imposed upon you, hopefully. You didn't used to. But now, in the last 20, 30 years, we have so much more agency in our society. The hardest house to have your Saturn return in is the one you've got. I don't do comparative trauma or comparative stories. Everybody has their journey, and it's their journey, and it might feel hard to them. Everybody. There is no hardest. There is no worst. There is no best. There's none of that. That's anybody who says this is the best placement, this is the worst placement, this is the hardest, this is the easiest, is full of shit and selling something. It's your chart. It's your life. It's your experience. You're going to perceive it the way you perceive it. Yeah. Aw, love you back. You're finally speaking up for yourself. Absolutely. Learning yourself. Absolutely. Being yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. Clapping back. Yeah. It's important. And you can tell who the immature or inexperienced astrologers are because they are giving narrow definitions. It's not like they're incorrect. It's just, it's inexperience. You have to read thousands and thousands of charts. You've got to, in fact, if you want to be a good forecasting astrologer, you need to be a good natal astrologer. If you want to be a good forecasting or a good natal astrologer, you need to be able to understand mundane astrology. They go hand in hand. I was very fortunate to have extremely good mentors and teachers on my path who made sure I learned it all. And it was a lot of study. I spent years studying. I did not feel ready to be a professional astrologer. My mentor basically kicked my butt and made me do it. Right, on spiritual things. Yes, absolutely. You wouldn't trade your Cap Moon or Scorpio Venus. Oh, yeah, no. Capricorn Moon is a beautiful placement. So is Scorpio Venus. Yeah, thank you, Kirsten. You woke up and manifested at 4:30 this morning. Wow, you were motivated. I look forward to hearing how that turns out. Now, that's a 6-month process. So at the full moon in the spring, the full moon in Libra, you'll hopefully see just a beautiful blossoming. I'm going to talk about how to use Saturn's power in our workshops. So if you go to the link in my bio, I'm going to be teaching about how to understand Saturn in relation to your chart. It's already there in your chart. Everybody has Saturn in your chart. How to work with it is studying Saturn and understanding how your Saturn operates, how you restrict yourself, and how you own your own authority, where you hand your power away to other people, and how you do that. And if you can understand where you give your power away, where you don't own your own authority, if you don't know what power means and authority, then you're always at the mercy of someone else. What are you doing, man? Malcolm, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're being weird. So, yeah. Yeah, I've got 2 Saturns. This is Malcolm. Yes, Malcolm says hi. Malcolm's sleepy. He's like, Mom. But yeah, so the link is in the bio to register for the Saturn classes. And like I said, I've got, right? Yeah, you want to register. And here it is. Save. You guys can use save 20%. There you go. So you finished your Saturn return in the 9th house. Exactly. So when we go through the workshop, when we go through the Saturn in the houses, it'll help make sense of Saturn through the signs and the houses. You'll get the astro guide. It's an hour class. We're going to run through it, and you'll get a good handle and a good understanding of Saturn and the energy it represents and how you can work with it. So yeah, and then we have the Saturn Return workshop, and you get more than one Saturn return in a lifetime. You get up to 3 depending on how old you live. You get the first one around between 27 and 29. You get the next one around 56-ish, between 56 and 58. And then you have the next one in your late 70s, early 80s. So really close to when you have the Uranus return as well. The Uranus return happens around 84 if you live that long. So, yeah. Have I worked with anyone who went through their 3rd Saturn return? I had a mentor who had passed his 3rd Saturn return. Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah, his name was Cosmos. And he taught me a lot about astrology. He's the one who taught me how to stop. In fact, it was really funny because it was on an old-fashioned message board, and he was the one who hammered it into me that looking at things as good and bad was really going to make me a shitty astrologer. And he would really make fun of people because he'd been an astrologer, oh my God, at that point, I think 60 or 70 years. He'd known some of the greats from the 30s, like Dane Rujar, who's an amazing modern mystic, and he was the one who really drilled it into my head. Yeah, and he actually is the one who pointed 2020 out to me as a very young astrologer. I was like 25, 26. It was mid 90s, and he was like, Laurie, you need to look at this. I'm not going to live long enough to see it. You need to study this chart and understand it because it's huge. Everything's going to change from there. And he goes, I'm kind of sad I won't live to see it, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad too. And he's like, don't be afraid of it, but certainly study it. So I looked at 2020 coming for a long time. I shaped my life and gained a lot of skills to help meet it. One, so I could be of service during it, but also just so I could make it through this challenging time and raise my kids for that. So watching 2020 come for 20 years was very, very, very intense. So yeah, you got Saturn in your ninth. Saturn the 7th isn't all bad. There's nothing all bad. And that's why I'm going to teach that in the Saturn workshop. The astro guide I'm creating will be part of the class. You'll get an astro guide on Saturn through the houses. For the Saturn through the houses workshop, it'll help you understand Saturn in your chart, how to work with the energy, what it means to have Saturn in a sign, in a house, what that means, and how you express that energy unconsciously and how you can harness it consciously to be in your own authority. The more people in their own authority, the better off everybody is. And then we have Saturn Returns, and we're going to talk about, in that workshop, I'm going to cover what a Saturn Return is, how it actually operates, that it creates a chart. It is actually a divination chart, okay? And that it's different from the process, and we'll talk about the process as well, and about what that means in the first, second, and third returns. So, right? Well, yeah, a lot of people on TikTok need to actually study astrology instead of quote blogs. That's what I've got to say. I'll be a little Saturnian here. I'll be the negative side of Saturn. I saw some influencers talking about the new moon who knew jack shit about it. And they even gave the incorrect times for different times. You know, like one person said it was like, what, EST? And I'm like, we're not even on standard time yet. If you don't know your times, don't talk about astrology. You know, say Eastern or Pacific, but daylight and standard mean something, okay? So, like right now, we're -7 GMT. When we go back to standard, we're -8 GMT. That makes a difference on calculating charts. Time is specific. They also didn't understand what the new moon was. They were just copying other people for clout. That's not astrology. You know, so just because somebody has the confidence to make a video doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. There's some younger people here who aren't necessarily giving incorrect information. They're giving information as per certain understandings. It's just inexperienced, you know. So you can have enough information to be dangerous, but if you question them and you really ask, they probably can't answer beyond the pat answer they gave. That's not a bad thing. I was there once. It takes thousands of charts and experience and reading to be fluent in this. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Tanya. Are there any other returns that get the same hype? No, it actually, Saturn returns get hype because it's kind of been bandied about on the internet for a long time. Solar returns and lunar returns should be more discussed. I'm going to be doing workshops on those too, because those are some very accurate predictive charts. Every month you get a lunar return, and it'll give you the overview of the energy of your month. I just don't have time to do those full time on lunar returns, but I will be teaching workshops on solar and lunar returns, because your lunar return happens your solar return happens around your birthday, and it gives you your overview of the year, and lunar returns happen every month. And I check my lunar return every month. I just had mine today. Right? But yeah. Hang on a second. Novice here. Hang on. Do the natal charts tell you exactly what you should be doing in life? As a novice, I'm going to tell you, learn your planet signs and houses. And it's not about should. It shows you your potential. You can go this way, you can go this way, there's no should in life. That's part of your cultural training, telling you, you need to have your life freaking figured out, blah, blah, blah. You can't live your life wrong, okay? Your soul is going to take advantage and get you to the lesson no matter what. And lessons aren't supposed to be grueling. They can be, but they don't have to be. Your chart, your natal chart, is a 2D slice of time and space representing the 3D slice of time and space that's a human in physical form. That's you. You never supersede your chart. You never escape your chart, because your chart is a reflection of you. The chart isn't making you do anything. It's reflecting the energy of who you are. And the whole of your chart makes your personality. Okay, the whole of it, not just your top 3. The whole of it. That's why we're doing the Saturn workshops. We're going to talk about Saturn through the houses. I'm going to go through all the planets and do workshops on all the planets to help you really understand astrology the way it's meant to be practiced. It's not meant to be practiced in pieces. It's synthesis, but you learn the pieces to put them all together. No, CoStar is not a reliable resource. CoStar is some of the worst astrology I've ever seen. And I will stand by that. CoStar is some of the worst astrology. It's not good astrology. It's shitty. It's not even accurate. It's not even accurate. It's absolutely repulsive, in my opinion. Time Passages is a much better app. The Pattern is a great app. It doesn't give you the astrology, but it has excellent interpretations. As an astrologer, I can read it and I know what they're talking about. But yeah, AstroSeek, I haven't looked at their app. I'm not fond of their chart layouts. They're okay. I don't like their interpretations very well, but their charts are okay. But yeah, yes, Molly, it is. Hey, how you doing, Curtis? How's your mom? Saturn's on your midhaven. Oh, you're an imposter syndrome. Well, it's important not to luxuriate in imposter syndrome. Yeah, because CoStar isn't good astrology. It's not even astrology. Awesome. Yeah, I knew what you meant. I knew you meant that. You started all your astro pages. Yay! So hang on a second. You're a little confused because you give full new moons in EST because that's your time zone? I'm trying to figure it out. You don't want to give bad info? It's okay to give it in your own time zone. And you just tell people it's your own time zone and they need to figure it out. I do all of my forecasts for Pacific time. And then I tell people, change it to your own time zone. I'm in -7 GMT because I have a lot of international patrons. Because, like, if you really want to learn, join my Patreon. You know? So you can either take the mentoring levels, which are the Living by Luna and the Cosmic Surfers, or you can be an astro adventurer, or even a mystic muse, because I do coffee with Laurie every other week and you guys can ask me questions about astrology. You know, I let you know if it's a little bit more than what I do at Coffee with Laurie and say, hey, you know, that's another level. But in general, I give a lot of information all the time. So yeah. Yeah, clarify your time zone. Yeah, clarify your time zone. Oh, awesome. You've been restless lately, but sleeping almost the whole day when you can sleep, feel like you're jet lagged. That would definitely be some of the retrogrades, especially Saturn. And Saturn's getting ready to station direct. I've been starting to feel more energy. I was pretty tired for a long time because of the Saturn retrograde. And Saturn, of course, is being squared to my natal Saturn. So while Uranus is within conjunction to it, that's been fun. So, yeah. Yeah, check out the Patreon. Yeah. The link is in the bio. I also have the Saturn workshops coming up. This whole year has been a big long nap. Well, you know, we had Pluto station retrograde in the spring. It just went direct today. We had Saturn and Jupiter station retrograde in May. They're both stationing direct this month. I talked about that on my podcast. You can find that link in my bio as well. You can't, honestly, I'm going to say you can look at two different astrological systems, but Vedic and Western are totally different systems. And honestly, Vedic really is most useful if you come from that culture, okay? It's a culture and religious tradition. And it's just as accurate as anything else. But if you are not of that culture and tradition, it's a lot less relevant. It's a lot less relevant. It just depends. I'm not saying it's bad. I have friends who are Vedic astrologers and they're absolutely freaking amazing. They're very accurate, but it comes from a different worldview, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to understand they're not the same thing. They're different systems with different worldviews, and that's important to remember. Which one? Which retrograde? Which one to believe? They're both right and they're both wrong. If you're not from the Vedic culture, if you're not from India, and you don't live in that culture, it's probably not as relevant to you. It's its own system. Okay, it's still very accurate in certain degrees. So you might say, if I was looking at the two systems, and we don't really use both charts. Okay, one would be more where you're more traditional, and one would be where you have more agency and movement. But yeah, you can't compare the two. They're their own things. They're their own you have to look at it from a meta level if you're comparing. And I'm not saying one is bad and one is good. Okay, I'm just saying they're different, and you can't. It's like apples and oranges. They're both fruit, and they're both good fruit, but they're different fruit. Oh God. Okay. The 13th sign, I never can say it right either. Ophiuchus. I say it wrong every time. Of course, the ancients knew about it. It doesn't work with the math to have 13. Astrology is about polarities. Those little pieces of pie in the astrology chart aren't little pieces of separate pie. They're polarities. 13 does not work in a polarity. You would need 14. It gets brought up all the time. It's a bunch of bullshit. We don't use it for a reason, okay? And the math doesn't work. Unlike what they do in economics, where they screw around with the math to make it work, it doesn't work with the math. They don't take it down, and they're going to continue to be full of shit. No. It's okay to go through a period of self-discovery and be more internal. That's okay. You've just had a lot of annoying things happen with travel and tech. This Mercury retro, that's a standard Mercury retrograde. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, two houses can have the same ruler. That's called an intercepted, well, it's not always it's usually an interception. So like if you have Leo on the first house cusp and Leo on the second house, then that first house is intercepted. It's an intercepted house. Intercepted signs happen when you have like, let's say Cancer on one end of a house and Virgo on the other. Leo is then intercepted. And that just means it has to be unlocked via transit. Hey there, how you doing? Right? Yeah. Oh, I got hit by the Gemini one bad. This one isn't too bad with it in Libra, although it was squaring my Mercury. It's backed off enough that it's not in square to my Mercury, and I could use my brains today. Yeah. Saturn is transiting your second house. Other than self-worth, what are the themes? Well, I'm going to be teaching about that in Saturn through the houses. So, second house is all about resources, value, real estate, investment, personal investment, how you receive money. It might be tight financially. You may have to restructure how you spend money, how you make money, that kind of thing. I'm a professional astrologer. I don't give free readings here. You're welcome to click the link in my bio and schedule an appointment with me. Or join my Patreon. Yeah. So, yeah, I give a lot of information about astrology, but I can't tell you based off of, well, there we go. So, based off of just somebody's sun sign anyway. So, if you go to yes, there will be a recording as well as there'll be a recording, and there'll also be the astro guide that I write for the Saturn through the houses, Saturn Returns. So there's two separate workshops. You can just go to the link in my bio here. And again, because, you got the audio. Awesome. All right, so save 20% is the code to use because it's my 1-year anniversary on TikTok. Yay! Who knew last year when I downloaded TikTok because a certain person who's no longer president wanted to ban this app, and I did it in political protest. Who knew that this thing would happen like this? But anyway, you save 20% to save 20% on workshops or readings with me. Can explain what you need to focus on right now astrologically? That is a big question. It really depends on your chart, but I would listen to my podcast. Go listen to my podcast for that. And I write horoscopes and extended forecasts every 2.5 days on my Patreon. And Astro Adventurer and up get those. So Mystic Muses don't get the horoscopes, but everybody else gets horoscopes. So I write what's happening with the energy over the next couple of days, and then I write out the rising sign horoscopes. Every 2.5 days you get that. So absolutely. And you can look at that on Patreon. And my podcast is sponsored by my patrons, and I do patron shout outs. That keeps me independent. I don't take any sponsorships, and I give a ton of information. The world's changing until about 2035, actually. But, no, I'll talk about that later. I don't really want to talk about it today. I did. I've joined because of him. Because I'm a rebel. And I was like, screw you, I'm downloading this app. And then I saw all these creative people, you know. And it's funny because I had it on my phone before, but it was mostly just silly dances. I hadn't found any of the other sides of TikTok. And the first time I saw the silly dances, I was like, well, I don't dance. So I do dance, but I can't do dances. So I was just like, it wasn't relevant. But I downloaded it in protest, and then I saw all these wonderful political TikToks, and I was like, oh my God, the resistance is so strong. It's so amazing. And then I saw all these creative people, and then I saw some of the spiritual. I started to see the different sides of TikTok, and I was like, oh my God, this is a great space. This reminds me of the old internet, but with video. And so as a Gen Xer, I was like, I am down for this because I miss bulletin board services, and I miss people having opinions that aren't all over the place. So it was just a really creative space to be. That's why I stayed. I heard about the Twitch data leak. Yep, I did. I like Dances in the Shadows, or Dances in Shadows. She's an amazing cosplayer dancer. She always inspires me. Actually, I like Sarcastic Megs. She's another astrologer. She's really funny. I like Witty Indy. She's another astrologer. She cracks me up. Like who else? I like Under the Desk News. Who else do I like? I like a lot of different tarot readers. Antlered Crown as a reader. Antlered Crown. I'm not really big in the metaphysical space, so I tend to follow just like an eclectic group of people. There's a baker, I can't remember their name, but they make really beautiful bread, and I'm always inspired by them. I'm Cancer, I like to bake. Legal Dad. I love Legal Dad. Legal Dad cracks me up. I love his TikTok. Oh, Laughter and Light, amazing immunologist. I just love her sass, and I love her professionalism. She's great. So yeah. Right? The bread account. It's amazing. But yeah, 2035. Yeah. Yep. Oh, the Pocket Report. I'll have to check it out. Oh, there you go. Right? The silver lining to his time in office. That's funny. Right? Right? Maybe you'll make it to your third return. Yeah, you've gone through your second return. You're wise. Oh, I love her recipes. I love baking. My Libra moon is fantastic with this new moon. What are you talking about? It's amazing. This is energizing me. Yeah, there's nothing bad about this new moon for me, man. I've got Pluto square my moon and opposite my sun. I've lived through enough. I don't take anything as negative. The only thing I was having a hard time with was Mercury directly on my moon squaring my Mercury, just because everything I do is very mental. So all of my work and stuff is all up in my head. So it was a little frustrating. But it just means you have to slow down and just be like, okay, it's just some time is all. So just back off. Don't put any pressure on. Just let things go. Deal with what's in front of you step by step. Take it slow. That's all. And that's where I got the idea of, do a planetary workshop every month. And it's so obvious. It was a duh moment. So we're doing Saturn and Saturn Returns on Halloween. And you can find that link in my bio to register. Yeah, Pluto square your moon too, right? Oh my God. Yeah, that's something and a half. A second Saturn return? No, it's not just one count. It's all three, up to three. They all count. Yep. Each one is different. And that's what I'm going to teach in the workshop. Head in the clouds. Yeah. Indeed. You do have a lot of air. Yeah. Help for what? A lot of times, like for those of you who had your Saturn returns in 2020, the next one isn't going to be like that. You guys came in as spiritual overachievers because Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter were conjunct on your Saturn return. That's just a lot. And you guys, it's your age group that's restructuring society and the system. So it just made sense that was your Saturn return. Because the Saturn return is a chart. Okay? It's a chart. It's not just this process everybody talks about. That was Pluto and Leo really blurred the lines about how astrology is practiced. And again, I was very, very, very lucky to have older mentors that came from Pluto in Gemini and Pluto in Cancer. Some of them were well on their way out of this life while I was starting. And so I was very, very fortunate to be taught classically. People make a big deal out of the Saturn return. It doesn't have to be. A lot of what was going on was other factors. It wasn't just the return itself. The return itself is a chart. There is a process involved, but there is a chart involved. And that's what we're going to talk about as well in the Saturn Return workshop. Hi. Does your Saturn return chart when it's exact, or it does not when it enters the house? I don't know who started that, but it needs to end now. The return is when the planet reaches exact. And if it goes back and forth on retrograde, it's the final exact return. So there is a process as Saturn begins to move towards it. When it's within 8 degrees and it moves, that's where you'll start the process. But the return itself is an exact thing. Let's see if I can find here effects. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's see. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. So let's pretend this chart. We're going to pretend this chart is somebody's natal chart. Somebody was born yesterday, right? Or whenever I did this chart. So we have Saturn at 6 degrees, 53 minutes of Aquarius. Okay. So we found Saturn. It's over here. Let's see. It's over here, right there. Okay. In 28 and a half years, respectively, Saturn will return. I wish I could draw on this. In my readings, I draw all over the screen, by the way. Just so you can see. But in 28 and a half years, Saturn will reach 6 degrees, 53 minutes of Aquarius. That will be that person's Saturn return. Now, if it happens to go over it and back, the return is on that third pass when it's exact. The process is separate from the return. You'll start feeling the themes of the return on the approach, and that approach is within 8 degrees in sign. in sign. So if, let's say, Saturn was in Capricorn, until it reached Aquarius, it's not applying to that Saturn. Until it reaches Aquarius, you can't aspect out a sign. I don't know who started that either. That's not a thing. So yeah. It is a freebie, and I actually am going to be teaching a full class on this. So, but I want you guys to have this basic understanding. And I'm teaching a workshop on Halloween. I'm teaching one on Saturn through the houses, and I'm teaching about Saturn returns. To me, this is the most basic information. I'm willing to give it to you as a freebie. And then I teach you about the return, the process, and the return, the chart. Because the chart is a divination chart. Okay? It shows you what's up for the next 28 and a half years when it comes to your authority and how, if you're going to restrict yourself or not, etc. So the solar return is the sun back to its original spot. We're talking about Saturn returns. Any return is where a planet comes back to where it started in a natal chart. So this was this new moon, right? So a lunar return, like if somebody has 13 degrees Libra moon, today's new moon was their lunar return. Your lunar return doesn't start when the moon enters the sign. Your lunar return is when the moon gets to the exact degree and minute it is in your natal chart, and that sets a divination chart. You don't need to understand the degrees, you just need to know that they're there. The degrees don't mean much themselves, they're just marking where it is so we can do the geometry. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay, Becky. It's all right. That's why I like to do the workshops. I like to do the workshops on Zoom because then we can like discuss this stuff, because it's really hard on a live stream, right? It's really hard on a live stream. But a return is when a planet goes exactly to the degree and minute. It is not ever. You are not in your return. My moon is at 21:53 minutes of Libra. I wasn't in my lunar return until I was in my lunar return. My lunar return did not happen when the moon went into Libra yesterday. It happened today. It happened after the new moon. Okay. What is a divination chart? A divination chart is how you tell the future. Okay, so if I look at your solar return chart in the year ahead, sometimes in the career reading, sometimes in the transit reading, but always in the year ahead reading, it tells me the energy that's going on from your birthday to your next birthday. Lunar returns tell me what's happening in the month from the lunar return to the next month. Every month you have a lunar return, and we can see what the theme is. So where is your energy going to be focused? Where are you emotionally focused? So if this was a person that lunar return, let's say it's a return, that would have been very second house oriented. They'd be working on self-worth. They'd be looking at how to make more money. They'd be looking at restructuring their finances. They'd be looking at how they could create more money, how they could attract more money. Yeah. So you don't, yeah, astrology is a great way to like math. I hated math until, in fact, when I found out how much math was in astrology, I told my mentor, I'm like, I don't think I was cut out for this. And he goes, your chart was made for astrology. I'm like, well, I suck at math. And he goes, you won't at this. And so one of the things I do in the How to Read Your Birth Chart is I explain aspects in a way that makes them easy. I gave you my shortcuts to understanding aspects. But the degrees themselves hold no divination meaning. Degree theory isn't a thing. A solar return. Solar returns. Ooh, yeah. The year ahead readings are really thorough and very in depth because I do your solar return. I do all the lunar returns. I look at the major transits. Yeah. Can you still access How to Read Your Birth Chart on Patreon? It depends on the level and if you were in it. Message me on Discord. Message me on Discord because that was I can't remember which people. So, because the people in the class got it. So it just depends on what level. So, but message me on Discord about that. And so just a reminder, I'm going to be teaching about what a Saturn return is, what the process is versus the chart, and understanding a Saturn return chart. I bet. Your Jupiter in Libra? Yeah. I have Jupiter in Libra. My Uranus and Jupiter are conjunct at 0 degrees. Were you born in 93? '93, 94. My daughter was born in 93. She has Jupiter conjunct her moon and Mars. Yep. Same age as my daughter. Yep. Yeah. And that's one of the other things, guys. I see like on Reddit, people will post their chart and take the information off of it because they don't want people to figure out when they were born. If you post your chart, I know exactly when, where, and what time you were born by looking at the planets, because this is the cosmic clock. It's the cosmic clock. Any astrologer can. If you're reading and you don't know how old someone is by certain placements, you need to keep studying. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Of course we can determine the location. Do I use astrology for the stock market? Well, it tanked today, didn't it? Do you embody the qualities of the signs through the houses? It's a little more complex than that. The houses represent areas of life. That's all in my ultimate cheat sheet. I explain that in there. I also explain it in the How to Read the Birth Chart class, which is linked up on my website. I do expect there to be a stock market crash. I do. I've been expecting it most likely next year. I think they're going to try to float everything this year, but I think November we might start to slide pretty hard. We'll see some. Could be April. Could be, but maybe before that. We're definitely having crashes at the end of the year next year as well. So, and it'll be global. We're going to have to restructure stuff. So I don't think it's going to do what everybody thinks it does, because globally we're going to have to address it, and I think it's going to force innovation. Yep. Yeah, 2021 is the roller coaster ride. 2022 is a maze. It's a maze with booby traps. If you go to the link in my bio, you'll find all of the links. I built a webpage on my site that has all the links. And if you want to take the How to Read Your Birth Chart, I don't think you can't use the discount code on that one. Sorry. Because that's a stupid thing. I got to get that on something else. But anyway, the Save 20% works on readings with me, and the Saturn Workshops. It works for those. There's nothing easy about astrology. It'll certainly open your mind. But that's one of the reasons why people give oversimplified information, because actual astrology is very complex and it takes years of study to become fluent. So go easy on yourself and just enjoy the process of learning. But yeah, oh man, I'll never forget. My brain just going, yeah. So Exactly. Judy Garland was correct. It's not easy, but it is worth it. No, things don't improve terribly well after 2022. No. Things don't get easier. They don't. We're in for a ride. We're in for a ride. I don't see things improving for quite some time. We have to deconstruct a system that's based on dominance and control and learn how to work collectively. That is no small feat. Most people don't know how to do that. And so that's it's not going to be unity consciousness. It's not going to be skip to the loo. We're not going to wave a wand and have everything magically be all peaceful. Neither are we going to have World War III. We're going to have to address climate change, economic collapse, globally, and we're going to have to work together to do it. And it's going to force innovation. Now, 30 years from now, things look pretty good, but it's a truck through it. Yeah. No, I don't think we're marrying anything from the 60s. I think we're cleaning up the fucking mess. Yeah. I think that's what we're doing. I think we're cleaning up what wasn't finished. There was a lot of smoke and mirrors. But no, we're not mirroring the 60s. We're cleaning up the mess. People want instant gratification. It doesn't work that way. So we're actually cleaning up a 4,500 year mess. And it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Thank you. Exactly. We are totally lifting the rug that everything was swept under. Absolutely. Of course, the future looks good long term. We were all born for these times. I'm having the best time of my life. These are the best years of my life. If you could see through the illusion in the past, like now, at least things are getting frickin' honest. I mean, people had blinders on. Yeah, we do have work to do, and we all do. So totally, yeah. Thank you, Molly. Yeah, long term, it's great. Long term, we do really well. Okay, short term, we don't. Short term, we have to deconstruct. So there's going to be instability. That's why I pushed all year. You guys might be new to me. I was pushing all year for you to get ready for the end of 2021. Like, finally, I feel like I can relax because I've warned all I can warn. It's not sexy, but it's accurate. Because now you're starting to see all those things I was talking about in the spring and the summer. They're all starting to happen. I'm not shocked my predictions are accurate. I've been an astrologer for 30 freaking years. I've been studying this time period for over 20 years. Well over 20 years. Because one of my mentors had me look at 2020, like when I was 2 years into my astrological studies, because he was really, really old. He was in his 90s, and he was like, I'm not going to live to see that, but you will. You need to keep your eye on this. And I was like, am I even going to survive that? I had no idea. It just looked big and scary. And honestly, it ended up being way better than I thought it was going to be. I know. As bad as it was, I expected worse. So as we go forward, we have to deconstruct in order to rebirth. And part of that is learning how to be collective, and we're not going to be good at it to start with. So it's going to be a bumpy ride, but eventually we'll get there. Yeah. What's happening towards the end of 2021? Go back and watch my videos. I've been talking about this all year. Go listen to my podcast. So the supply chain issues, the strikes, the unionization, inflation. I told people to keep cash on them. Why? Because I think we're going to have hacking and people attacking payment processors. I think there's going to be security breaches on various platforms. I wasn't surprised that Facebook went down. I also think it was intentional. But and if it wasn't intentional, it was poor planning. Facebook is under a lot of stress. And what's very funny is to a fellow astrologer friend of mine who I was trying to get off Facebook. I'm like, dude, you need to get off Facebook. You need to build a website. This is last year. I was like, I've looked at Facebook's chart and I think they're going down in 2023. You need to get off and have your own real estate online. And this person is a pretty busy astrologer. And they were like, no, I don't have time. And I was like, I'm telling you, get your ass off Facebook because in 2023 they go down. So hopefully, I have to go back through Messenger and find that, take a screenshot of it, because in 2020 I did predict 2023 Facebook goes down. You heard it here. It's going to be broken up. I think it's going to be the restart of antitrust laws again. So yeah, you do need your own websites. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't hear about Bank of America. What did you say? Yeah, I saw Twitch got hacked. Yeah. Oh, you found out your bank. Oh, Bank of America. What are they doing? Bank of America has often. Oh, Bank of America has often done shady. They all do shady shit. We have all 12 signs in our chart, but if you're asking about my big three, I have. Oh my God, that's amazing. That is so cool. Thank you. If you're asking about my big three, I'm a Cancer Sun, Scorpio Rising, Libra Moon. Hey, Brandy. Yeah, even credit unions are going to have their issues. So I think a lot of people are going to find out there's been a lot of marketing that has been greenwashed that isn't necessarily as green or as conscious as people have said it is. So keep your eye out. Some people are going to be really disillusioned. Santa Benjamin. We are actually talking about Saturn. Yep, big banks do. So hang on. Why does God approve of astrology? I don't know. If you believe in God, ask God. Astrology just is. It's the cosmic clock. I don't get into religious or theological debates here. So, I don't believe in an anthropomorphic deity of any kind. So I believe in energy. But the universe is vast and is beyond the petty ideas humans have. So I can't believe in petty anthropomorphized or humanized ideals. Yeah. I'm not fond of naming generations. And that's because I'm a Gen Xer and we were annoyed when we got a name. So, I think I love a lot of how idealistic and how switched on Gen Z tends to be. I think it's really important to understand that you have to take action and not just talk about stuff. I'd love to see you guys actually take action, unlike the Pluto and Leo generation was a very performative generation. It would be nice to see Pluto and Sag take action, but also understand that there's more than one version of the truth and that your truth is a form of truth. Truth is subjective. I have a lot of Sag energy in my chart, even though I'm a Cancer Sun, Cancer Mercury, Cazimi. It's in the 9th house. So my Cancer is colored by Sag, and I have Sag Mars in the 1st house. Learning that there was more than one truth, that truth is subjective and it's based on a perceptual lens, is really, really important. Learning how to communicate so that you don't run into cognitive dissonance, and then taking action and not giving up the minute something doesn't happen right away is super important, because Sag can fizzle out because they see an end goal so much, but if it doesn't happen fast enough, they lose interest. So that's important. You guys need to set small, achievable goals. But in general, I love reading for Sag Pluto kids or adults. Some of them are adults, some of them are teenagers. But reading for that because you are very philosophical. You're a lot of fun to read for, and you're surfing the energies at a little different level. That's a lot of fun to read for. I had one of those readings today and it rocked. So, but I think it's really important. What I see a lot, though, is people saying, well, what did Gen X do? We were fighting. Half of us were fighting. Half of us were bootlickers. But half of us were fighting and getting ignored. And some of us fought hard. And we were fighting. Imagine fighting and standing against a massive army. And you're only this many, So it was frustrating. I'll never forget when they started talking about it was hard for millennials to find jobs. And I'm like, I graduated in 1990 into a recession. And I got called lazy and a slacker because I didn't want to take shitty pay. I'm like, no, I went to college. I did not go to college to take a shitty job, And so it wasn't until, 10, 15 years later when people are like, oh no, the economy sucks. And I was like, the economy has sucked. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about Venus to go into Sag, too. I am very direct in my communication because it provides for clarity. We had a new moon. This is the chart of today. We had the new moon. So the sun and moon is conjunct in a new moon. Plus, we had Mars there, conjunct all of that. Mercury, of course, is retrograde. It's square Pluto. Pluto stationed direct 2 hours after the new moon. And Mars and Venus Mars and the moon had moved 1 degree over and was nicely square at a 10-degree orb, Pluto. So yeah, it was a little volatile. Yeah. Yeah, Venus moving into Sag is exciting. This is all going to be about global finance. We're going to be looking at the financial sector. There's going to be a lot of political discussions. We will see that the situation in China is a lot more dire than the PR is wanting to say. There's been a lot of spin on it. It's not so bad. It's not a Lehman Brothers moment. Like hell it's not. So we're going to see some interesting things happen in global finance. I'm excited about it because Venus will be conjunct by Mars. That's an exciting thing. But yeah. Nice. Transiting your 7th house. That's fun. So you'll be looking at how you commit your energy. There might be some really good opportunities show up for you as well. The 7th house isn't just about partnerships as far as marriage. It's actually about how we expend our time and our energy and how we commit to people and our contracts. So, yeah. Oh, very nice. Saturn is direct. Excellent. Yeah, it stations on the 8th here. That's excellent. Does astrology show any future sites of government getting exposed? It just really depends on what you mean by exposed. If you pay attention and you read stuff, the government is exposed all the time. Will there be consequences? I think we're going to have a constitutional crisis next year in April when the Constitution's Saturn Return happens. So I'm a political analyst and was before I became an astrologer. So I don't really... A lot of the conspiracy theories are not based off actual understanding of how the systems work. But we'll see a constitutional crisis most likely next spring. We're not going to have a revolution. We're not going to have a replay. I've talked about that too. I have a whole blog post about that. You can go see the link in my blog. If you go to my link in my bio, you'll see the blog link. Go click that and you can read about the Pluto, what people are calling the Pluto return of the United States, which is not the Pluto return of the United States. It's of the revolution. And this is going to be a little different format. It doesn't necessarily mean it's mushy. No, it's not why I'm good at mundane astrology. I'm analytical by nature, so I'm a good political analyst and a good mundane astrologer for the same reasons, because I'm highly analytical and my sun and my Mercury are in the 9th house. So that just reflects a highly analytical mind, because I have the sun is Kabus Kazimi in the ninth. So I'm very perceptive of very small details. And I study hard. Like, I didn't just put my shingle out as an astrologer because I read a book or a blog post or something. You know, I studied for years. So, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It is good to have been on TikTok for a whole year. Well, nobody's naturally good at astrology in any form. It takes years. I did not feel comfortable predicting with mundane astrology probably for 5 or 6 years into my studies, because it was too easy for me to look without the mundane, right? So that's why I don't watch the news. I just do my predictions. I do my predictions, and then I go look and see what happened. But I don't pay attention to the weather. I don't read the newspaper. I don't listen to TV. My followers, my patrons give me the links to what happened. I give the prediction. They're like, oh my God, here it is, here it is, here it is, here it is. So I keep my head down so I can be doing predictions. Because again, as a political analyst, I was very accurate, really young, at 19, 20 in college. I was calling world events. And it wasn't just intuitive. It's like I'm really good at seeing details and stringing them together. So yeah. Yep. Have I ever shocked myself at a prediction? Actually, no astrological predictions have ever shocked me, because as a student, it was my last quarter at university, I predicted the first Gulf War off of newspaper articles and 8 hours at the the International Institute for Strategic Studies Library in London. I had an 8-hour pass, and between the books and the studies and a theory and talking to one person who happened to have some inside information, I was able to assess that Iraq was going to attempt to invade the Arabian Peninsula. And I missed it a little bit by a country, but it was all down to who was pumping oil where. And on August 2nd of 1990, coming out of my final exam for my undergrad, I was met by a lot of people going, you were right again, because I used to call political events. And it was devastating, because we lost about 20 former classmates who were from Kuwait. And it was both disappointing and sad, because I am very smart. I tested out at 160, 158, 160 at 12. So I have a very high IQ. But I'm not an entire intelligence agency. And I knew, even though I drew on maps and I talked to people and I asked questions, and it wasn't a high level official. I had an ambassador's son at the university that I could ask questions to. And then going into that library and just kind of picking things together, I realized that there was no way our government didn't know that invasion was going to happen, because I didn't have spy satellites. I didn't have a network. And up until that point, I really wanted to be a political analyst for the government and help avoid war. And I realized there was an investment in it. I was very idealistic. I have Jupiter and Uranus in Libra. They're conjunct at 0 degrees. I have enough of that Sag energy. I had a friend who used to call me Crusader Rabbit, because I'm always on about social justice and gaining understanding and making the playing field equal for everybody. And when I saw, I knew I was smart, but I'm not smarter than a government. And so the fact that they acted shocked pissed me off. And after that, I've never been surprised I've called something. I can feel really sad about it, though. So like Ida, I knew that would be devastating. If you guys saw, people had asked for my assessment of what Hurricane Ida would be like. And it was a really hard prediction, because one, I don't like to take advantage of negative situations. Notice that when, like, with this whole Gabby Petito thing and stuff, I didn't do any charts. I'm not going to exploit it. I didn't exploit Britney Spears stuff either, although in the Patreon I did say she'd get her liberation. I looked at the chart. She will have her liberation. We're watching that play out now. In fact, around the time her dad was knocked out of the conservatory was when I said, it'll probably be in September. And so I'm never really shocked about being right. I just don't like being right. I know I'm accurate. And I know that sounds arrogant, but it's just confidence. I've never been shocked. I've just been disappointed. So there are things I'd love to be wrong about. I'm fine if I'm wrong about certain things. There's things I never want to be right about. But again, it's years and years of study, and it's years and years of practice, and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of charts. I can't even tell you how many thousands and thousands of charts I have read, whether it was natal charts, predictive charts, transits. I read a lot of charts. I look at charts all day, every day, and have for 3 decades. I live, breathe, and sleep astrology. And my mentor, he told me from the very beginning, Laurie, what you need to do is learn how to communicate astrology into everyday practical English. So even when I led my life as a business consultant first, and the astrologer was a little bit undercover, and I would only do astrology for my clients that were open to it or referrals, I was still speaking in astrological terms. I just turned it into plain English. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, and that's linked on my bio, go back and listen to my videos from 2018. I'm not mentioning astrology, but I'm telling you, you need to get ready. I was trying to get people ready any way I could for 2020. I taught a lot of people how to do online business. I taught people how to do online marketing, how to do performance, just to help people know, to have as much agency over their life as they could, because I saw the system crumbling. How it would crumble, I wasn't sure. And that kind of changed over time. But we're still crumbling. It takes time for a system that's this interconnected, and we wouldn't want it to crumble all over at night. All those people who want to burn it to the ground right now, no, you don't. No, you don't. We don't need that. No, we don't. We need to hold some stuff up in place and build new systems first. You need the new foundation laid. That's what Saturn and Aquarius is all about. So, yeah. So, yeah. Oops, hang on a second. Do I ever think about writing a memoir? I would need like a series of books if I was writing a memoir. It would be an entire series. There are parts of my life where so much was going on, it would just be a book itself. There was a lot. I've lived a really, really interesting life. Not gonna lie. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. In fact, I honestly believe I have to fictionalize some of it, because some of it's crazy stuff. So, yeah. If a person has Saturn retrograde in their birth chart, how does Saturn direct hit? On the return? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your Saturn is retrograde or direct on the Saturn return. The Saturn return is the chart in and of itself. So retrograde is an internal process. It would probably be more like if Saturn is direct on your return, and that's the final contact, then what that is it's more externalized things. So like maybe you're in a work environment that you're not happy in, and you have to decide what your boundaries are, and maybe you have to hold some boundaries that you're not good at holding. It just depends on the sign your Saturn is in. Saturn retrograde can be an amazing placement and a very beneficial placement. Hey, you're in Seattle. Hey, I moved out of there. I do give birth chart readings. In fact, if you go to the link in my bio, that's where you're going to find my Saturn Return workshop and the Saturn in the Houses workshop. On Halloween, I'm teaching full-blown workshops on Saturn through the houses and it'll be through the signs as well. Obviously, if we're talking about houses, we'll talk about signs. You'll get the Astro Guide to Saturn and the recording. And then likewise, the Saturn Return workshop is 90 minutes. So the Saturn through the houses is 1 hour. Saturn Returns is a 90-minute workshop. It's on Halloween. It's going to be super fun. And I'm going to teach you about Saturn Returns. So, and I do personal readings. I'm booked out pretty far. I know I have openings in December. Let's see. Or actually, I still have openings in November. I'm not booked all the way through November. Somebody was saying I was booked all the way through November. I'm not. There's plenty of space in November. Save 20% if you want. And you use this code. This will work on workshops as well as my readings. So I'm just going to get more booked, to be honest. And you've probably never had an astrological reading the way I do it, because there's a handful of astrologers like me in the world. Okay. Most people who do astrology readings don't know how to do really in-depth analytical readings. There's maybe 500 of us in the world who do in Western tropical astrology. So it's worth the wait. It's transformative. So yeah. Right? Right? Yeah, it's November is where it's at. Hang on. Who's talking about void of course? Because there's a lot of BS about void of course. Oh, I know a little bit about it. I'm afraid of things on a void. No. Don't be afraid of anything. See, that's bad astrology. Void of course just means the moon is not making any applying aspects. It doesn't mean it's not making a separating aspect. It doesn't mean other stuff is going on. You can do stuff in a void of course moon. That's just really medieval thinking. It doesn't work. Likewise, Mercury retrograde. I bought a freaking car in Mercury retrograde. Why? I was resolving the issue of not having a car. I'll be applying for an apartment because I'm looking for my own place. I'm resolving a living situation. Do not think you cannot do things. If you hold off on life because of superstition, that's what gives astrology a bad name. That's why people think we're bogus and just that it's bad information. You have to, astrology is complex. It's complex. Don't use it as an excuse to do nothing. Okay? You can't just go, oh wait, I gotta wait for that perfect transit. Life isn't like that. Astrology is reflective, not causal. Unless you're looking at lunar transits. Lunar transits can have some causality, and they prove that out when they do research on the moon. Like, we know that sleep cycles are interrupted during full moons. That was the University of Washington study. They've done a ton of agricultural studies on the moon. Originally, that was astrology. That's why I teach Living by Luna on Patreon. And eventually, it'll be a full-blown course coming in 2021. Why did I leave? Why would I stay? Why are people so cold there? Yeah. No, I can't stand Seattle. It's on my Saturn line. Can't stand it. That's why I moved to LA. I love LA. Could not make me go back. I lived in Washington State for 17 years, and it was the 17 longest years of my life. And actually, it's really funny because I grew up in Oregon, and I left at 18. And then I came back during my Saturn return, and I got the F out 17 years later. I am not returning to the Northwest on my second Saturn return. Not for love, not for money, not doing it. Yeah, don't worry about, do I do astrocartography? I do astrocartography in the career and life path readings and in the year ahead reading if somebody is wanting to move, but I don't do them in the shorter readings. But yes, I do astrocartography. Yep. Oh, you're from Portland, Vancouver? All right, exactly. Yeah, I grew up in Gladstone. Hey, Sethi. No, I say never. I'm never doing it. Can't stand it. I will never live on my Saturn line again. It's like walking in concrete shoes, not doing it again. I'll jump in the ocean first. Nope. I learned my lesson in my first Saturn return. I should not have come back there. I went back because I was afraid. I will never do that again. I will never be afraid like that again in my life. Nope. Never again. And I already proved that to myself back in 2016. I blew up my life and went to nothing to get the hell out of there. So, but look, here I am, better than I was then because of experience and astrology. But yeah, yeah, Colorado seems amazing. I can't live at altitude. It's not a silly question at all. So a Saturn return is when you have Saturn transiting and it returns exactly to the space where it was when you were born. So let's say this is a person's chart. Somebody was born today, right? So their Saturn would be at 6 degrees, 53 minutes of Aquarius. 28 and a half years from now, Saturn transiting will land exactly at 6 degrees, 53 minutes of Aquarius. Even if it retrogrades and comes back, the Saturn return is for the last pass at 6 degrees, 53 minutes. That sets a chart, and that chart is predictive. Return charts are predictive charts. They're divination. And they give a theme to the cycle of that transit. So a solar return gives you the theme of a year. A lunar return gives you the theme of a month. A Venus return is 18 months. Mars return is a 2.5 year view. A Saturn return is 28.5 year view. Okay? And it gives you a theme. It's looking at your agency. It's looking at how you restrict yourself or allow yourself to be restricted. It's how you come into your authority. It's the boundaries you need to set and the boundaries you need to keep. Those things. And it's a learning process. So that's what it is. I can't tell you without looking at your chart. I can't tell you if it's a good or bad time to move in November or December. Yeah. So that's why I do that in readings. But I can't ethically say without looking at a chart. That's part of being a professional astrologer. We can't give personal advice without looking at a chart. And out of respect to my colleagues, I don't do free readings. You know, this is what we do full time. I do this full time. This is what I do. This is my job. So yeah. There's varying theories on how close you have to be on a line to in astrocartography, you know, but within a couple 100 miles, it's stronger. But I think within 500, it's fairly accurate. There's some more esoteric applications. You say you can like feel into the line as well. You can feel into it. I also do relocation astrology, which I find is just as accurate and often gives me more information about how a location and you will interact. So locational astrology in general is very accurate. I like astrocartography to give me the meta view, and then I do a locational chart to give me the more specific information. So we were talking about Saturn returns. Everybody gets them. You have up to 3 in a lifetime, not just one. I know everybody focuses on the one, but you get a second one in your late 50s. And then again, 56, 29, about in your mid 80s, around the same time as the Uranus return. And that's why old people can seem kind of funky and very, very wise. They've lived through a lot. That's that third Saturn return, which is around the Uranus return. So I'm doing a workshop on Halloween for that. And I'm doing a workshop on Saturn through the houses. If you really want to learn about astrology, then these are the types of things you do to learn. It's not a self-study field, okay? Any good astrologer has had teachers and mentors. I've studied with some of the best astrologers in the world. I've had amazing mentors. And if you want to be good at astrology, even just for your own self-enrichment, that's how you learn it. Reading from books is just part of how you become a good astrologer, but it's really through the mentorship. Classical training means you have a mentor and you have a lineage, and I'm really proud to have a good lineage. So my lineage actually traces to Dane Rudhyar, who was an amazing modern mystic and an incredible mind. So yeah, military spouse all over the country, absolutely. And you'll see that you can see through the different charts, you'll be like, oh my God, that's why that is that way. Yeah. I'll be teaching class. I'm going to be teaching a class about planetary placements and calculation points. So things like the North Node and the point of fortune, those types of things. I'll be teaching classes on that. So I don't really do a ton of free content on this because I've spent my lifetime learning this, and this is what I do as a profession. But the North Node on through transit. I think somebody asked what the transit would be like in Gemini through the 12th. Well, you're opening up your ability to communicate, if you choose, with the cosmos, And you might call it God, you might call it the goddess, you might call it multiple deities, you might have a pantheon, however you perceive that energy. I think it's just really important for people to understand you're perceiving that energy through your lens. It may be your truth, but it is not going to be everybody else's truth. No, I don't think 3 years is too late. I don't think it can be too late to have a mentor. I went through times where I had my mentor, my main mentor, and then I kind of outgrew him, and then I studied on my own for a while, and then I went and I took workshops, found somebody I wanted to learn under, learned under them for a while, corresponded with other astrologers, was active with other astrologers. So no, it's never too late to have a mentor. Yeah. Yeah, all of my readings are live. I don't like doing recorded readings. So your recording is your reading is recorded, but it's of the live session, and I only use those recordings for you. You get access to them, you download them after the reading, and I clean out my cloud. I never use them for marketing or anything. I do have a video up, I need to put it up on my website, where I did a reading for my birthday twin and friend, to show how I conduct readings, but that was with agreement. So your private reading with me is 100% private, and the recording is only for your use. And I don't save them for anything. I clean the cloud out. I don't even remember the reading. Everything is confidential. I'm also a certified life and business coach as well. So there's a lot that goes into these. They're very detailed. No, it's never too early to have a mentor, ever. No, it's never too early. I started with a mentor. I didn't even have access to books. I lived in a country where it was illegal to study astrology. It was hard to get books in English anyway. I was online. I learned on email with my mentor sending me emails, no pictures, and except he'd attach a chart or something, but he didn't draw for me or anything. He would describe it, and I'd have to draw it out on my own. Oh my God. Talk about distance learning. He was in Australia. I was in Bahrain. Yeah. I was in Bahrain. Yeah, go draw it. And sitting with a protractor and a ruler and doing math. My brain hurt. I cried a lot. Probably for the first 6 months of learning. My brain hurt so bad. Yeah. Yeah, I was in Bahrain. I lived in Bahrain for 9 years. And then I lived in the United Arab Emirates. Yeah. I am. You could call me. I don't like to use the term master, but yeah, I'm a veteran astrologer. I've been at this for a very long time. I'm classically trained, old school. I have a lineage. I pass on my knowledge because I think it's important for people to know it, right? Yes. And that's how you learn astrology well. You're not going to be a good astrologer without apprenticeship. That there's a reason for it. So you gain a certain level of understanding and feedback from a mentor, and then you start practicing on your. And honestly, I never would have become a professional if my mentor hadn't kicked me, through email, because again, at that point I was in the States and he was in Australia, but he put a metaphorical shoe in my ass and said, go. And I was like, I don't think I'm qualified. I don't think I'm good enough. And he's like, go, do it. He was an Aquarian. Just do it. And I'm like, oh. I was really hard on myself. I have a Virgo South Node in the 10th house, conjunct Pluto. So I was really, really afraid to make mistakes. And he was like, you're not going to make mistakes. You're going to be fine. It's good. So what if you do? You'll learn from it. I'm like, ugh. So without my mentor, I never would have taken the first step to reading people for money, So he was essential in my process. So yeah. I fell into getting a mentor. Yeah, he was an Aquarian, exactly. I fell into it. I was on a message board, and this guy offered to read my chart because I was trying to figure out what I was, and he read my chart, and he went, oh my God, you were born to be an astrologer. I'm going to teach you. And I went, sounds interesting. I'm going to try to disprove astrology, right? And he's like, go ahead, try. And I'm like, all right, I will. And then I was like, shit, this is accurate. So, yep. Are you laughing? Right? He was an Aquarian. Yep. And my point of fortune is in Aquarius. And my third house is Aquarius. That was one of the reasons he was like, you need to communicate. You need to learn how to communicate this in non-astrological ease, in plain everyday language, so that you can take these big concepts and teach other people, because you can help people expand their consciousness and understanding of themselves. And I was like, dude, I am on that. That's where I got inspired. I was like, whoa, we can really help people understand themselves in deep and meaningful ways. And I knew from being a political analyst and anthropologist that one of the biggest hurdles we have as human beings is that people just stick in this narrow lens, and we have so much capacity, each one of us. And so I was like, wow, the more people I can show how valuable and unique they are, the better this world can be. And so that's why now that we're moving into the shit show of 2021, as the vertical dive begins, I feel at ease. I know I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of people prepared for the end of this year. And I can now focus on myself. I'm a little behind in my own preparations, but I have time. I know my transits. And now I'm going to put my focus here and on teaching. And so that's why we're starting with the Saturn workshops. The first is, they're both on Halloween. The first is Saturn through the houses. And the second is the Saturn Return, and you get 3 in a lifetime. So even if you want to make sense of your Saturn Return years or understand Saturn in your chart, these are like essential astrology classes, and I'm really excited to get to teach them. This is stuff I wanted to do. I wanted to be that cool old astrology chick when I was 25. I was like, I want to be like them. Well, there's a reason it took time, because in order to be the cool old chick, you have to get to be the old part. And it's nice to be able to bring the experience and help people understand and know themselves and the material, and then encourage you to see things in new ways and even explore new ways of describing this. You might come up with something better than I did. And that's exciting to me. But you have to come from the basics first and build up. So yeah, all the classes, right? Oh, I'm excited. I look forward to that. Absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Your Saturn is exactly conjunct the South Node in your chart, in your birth chart, or the current. So yeah, when you have one of the big planets like Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto on the South Node, then it kind of pushes you, it keeps you on your path. It keeps you driving forward to the North Node. So that it's hard to not move towards the North Node, because the minute you're operating too much in the South Node, it kicks you forward into the learning experiences. So that's something important to know. We have those skills of the South Node for a reason, right? So, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's because your Aries moon is probably really being impacted by the current world transits. So emotionally, if you get tied up, it's hard to communicate. Ooh, excellent. Look forward to it. We've been talking about everything from transits to Saturn. Saturn is your ruling... No, it does not mean a bad future. Saturn is your ruling planet. Does this mean a bad future? Absolutely not. Saturn... It could mean you were overly controlled by other people as a child, but it also means you're meant to know your own authority. You can be ambitious and very structured and very deliberate, okay? But it does not mean you have to have a bad future. Saturn, I know in more traditional astrology, they call it the Great Malefic. It's an unfortunate term, okay? Because it's not always the case. I don't like looking at things dualistically. I'm a progressive evolutionary astrologer, and I will argue I'm more accurate than any of the Hellenists on this app. Okay? A little shade. I know I just threw it, but I'm just going to say it. Because things are neither good nor bad. Okay? Things just are. And so that control you learned as a child, if you were very controlled and you had to be structured in order to avoid negative consequences, it also gave you the same discipline to reach your your ambition, and it's learning how to turn that energy on its head that gives you advantage. Yeah. Yeah, Saturn gets better with time. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And it's actually not true Hellenistic astrology anyway. It's an interpretation of what people believe Hellenistic astrology was. But it actually isn't truly Hellenistic astrology as practiced during the Hellenistic era, because that culture died a long time ago. And not one of us could know what it means. And I don't care who had what past life when. Okay? It's not going to qualify you. That's like saying you have astrological downloads. It's not a thing. You have intuitive downloads, but it's still not provable. And I have actual academic background in understanding cultures. So I've been on that. And I studied with Robert Hand. He was one of the founders of Project Hindsight, okay? He doesn't disagree with me. And trust me, if that man disagreed with me, I'd know it. He's a Sagittarian. He's also like Dumbledore, and he's very cool. Oh yeah, I've studied with some of the world's best astrologers. Jeffrey Wolf Green, Joanne Wickenberg, Jeffrey Levine. Levine. But yeah. Robert Hand. The Robert Hand. Yes. You know the people who've been studying astrology when I mention that name, right? Yes, Molly is the one who started the whole Ida thing. And I'm going to dress up as Ida for Halloween when I teach the Saturn classes. That'll be worth showing up to. Yeah, I can upload this live to YouTube. Absolutely. I am Ida. Actually, it was so funny because the whole Patreon Discord, it was after a coffee with Laurie, and they were all like, we don't mean to insult you, but you remind us of Ida. And I was like, I've never heard of this. I don't even watch TV. And so I went to watch it on YouTube, and I started to die laughing because if you listen to the podcast where I was really mad at the web designers, one of the things is I say, I'm never ever hiring outside of our community again. I'm never using a referral again. And one of the funny lines from like her first season, I watched like the funny clips, right? The best of reel. And one of the things she says is, well, that's the last time I take an outside referral. And I busted a gut laughing. I laughed so hard, I almost peed my pants. But yeah, I could see why. I took no offense. I was like, yeah, yep, that would be me. Maybe somebody knew me and turned me into a witch. You never know. Right? There you go. I have to watch the whole show. You have to dress up. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. That would be funny. I have to watch the whole show, and then I'll know. But yeah, we'll do that. We can have fun with Saturn. Believe it or not, Saturn isn't always not fun. Saturn can give you a lot of range of motion, you know. Again, Saturn rules the bones of the body and the skeletal structure. Without our bones, we have no range of motion, okay? We need the other bits as well, but without the skeleton, if we were just muscle and blood and skin, we'd be bags of blobs, right? We'd just be like, blah, 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 blah. We wouldn't even be able to go blah, 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 because the jaw, this is the bones, the skeleton. That's why we're doing it on Halloween, because Saturn rules the skeleton. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, transits are everything. It depends on if it's the house itself or a sign. So if your first house is intercepted, it just means who you are wasn't really supported as a child. So I'll teach a class on interceptions. I studied with Joanne Wickenberg, and she was one of the, in fact, I think she's written the definitive work on it, on interceptions. So I'll teach a class on interceptions. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, so Anyway, I think I've been on for quite a long time because I'm starting to feel hungry and tired. That's usually my clue. I've been on for well over an hour. So I want to remind you all, I am teaching the Saturn Workshops on Halloween. If you guys want to save a little bit of money, save 20%, and that'll save you 20% on the classes. So the first class is Saturn Through the Houses. The second class is Saturn Returns. One is 60 minutes, one is 90 minutes. So, yeah. Oh, you just got Joanne's book? Yeah. It's amazing. You're welcome. Yeah, so feel free to sign up. The link is in my bio. You can find the link to my podcast. That's free. The patrons sponsor it. If you want to become a patron, everybody gets access to Coffee with Laurie. The horoscopes are for astro adventurers and up, and then Living by Luna is a class where I teach lunar transits and observational applied astrology. And Cosmic Surfers is where we go into the metaphysics of astrology transits, and I mentor people along their astrological journey. But yeah. All right, see you next time, guys. Oops.